So what do we do now? Well, I like to call it going back to the basics. Back to the basics. So what are the basics? Well, there's 3 cogs in this business, the multifamily business. The first cog is from underwriting to accepted offer. All right, you don't become an investor in this business when you get your first deal under contract. You become an investor in this business when you put your first offer in. That's when the game starts being played. You can analyze all you want, but until you put an offer in, you're not in the game. But once you start putting offers in, you are in the game. One of the things I love to tell people when I used to teach, I taught the Multifamily Millions Bootcamp for 12 years. We used to do 4 a year, be filled with 400 or 500 people. And I never thought that somebody could replace me, right? Like, it's crazy thinking. But I thought, nobody can teach like I do. And I really don't have a big ego, if you know me. But I just didn't think that somebody could teach what I teach the way I teach it and have as many successful students. So, until I had kids. When I decided I was going to have kids, then I decided to get off the road. So when I decided to have kids, I replaced myself with 2 people, right? We went from doing 4 events a year to 80 multifamily million events a year. It's like, damn, why didn't I do this 15 years ago? My life would have been so much easier. So the thing that I love to tell people, through our mentorship program and our coaches, I asked them one time, what are the top 5 reasons that people aren't successful? Number 1 is inside of your own head. It's having limiting beliefs that you don't recognize, and they prevent you from moving forward. That's why we started teaching in all of our programs, mindset. Because if you can't get over yourself, it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter how many skills we teach you, how many techniques we teach you. If you can't get over yourself, you're not going to be successful. So the most important thing is get over yourself, right? And then there's it's funny, I took an Uber here. I'm staying with my family up in La Jolla on the beach there. And so I took an Uber here this morning, and he says, oh, you going to the Marquee? You going to an event? And I says, yeah, I'm going to a real estate conference. He said, oh, what's it about? I said, multifamily investing. He said, oh, how does somebody get started investing in that? I said, the best thing to do is read a book. I said, hey, can you recommend a book? I said, there's this book out there called Multifamily Millions. I said, you read that book, and you think it's something you want to do? I said, then move forward and do it. He said, well, how many people are going to be there? It's about 800 to 1,000. He said, how do people get started? I said, well, you're not going to get started until you get over yourself first. I said, I've been teaching since, and that's when I told him I was teaching the event. I said, I teach the event. I said, I've been teaching since 2002. I learned a long time ago that, you got to get over yourself. I said, so if you want to get over yourself, I said, go to YouTube right now, and there's three resources in there. Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. Who's read that book? Awesome book. Yep. So that was one of the things that turned my life around. But that was the second thing. The first thing was Earl Nightingale's Lead the Field. I was cleaning out properties for banks, and I found that cassette tape, and I plugged it into my car, my truck actually at the time, and I started doing what it said to do. And my life started changing. I was like, holy crap, that worked. And so he's got another one called The Strangest Secret. I listened to that one. That one's on YouTube too. And it tells you, The Strangest Secret tells you to do one thing. And I promise you, it's only 37 minutes long. I promise you, if you do that one thing, it'll work for you. And then that's when the next was Tony Robbins' book. It just came out back then. And I read it, and I started doing the things in there. And I was like, wow, my life is changing. I grew up poor. My life is changing. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. So from there, I continually do mindset stuff for myself. Because your mind defaults to the negative, automatically defaults to the negative. So from underwriting to accepted offer, what systems do you need to get there? Okay, first system is market analysis. You can decide which market you're going to go into. Is it going to be your own backyard, which I suggest? And could you do an emerging market at the same time? Yes. But the reason to understand market analysis and analyze your own backyard is to be able to touch and feel everything. You can go meet brokers. You can get face-to-face with them. You can go onto properties. You can underwrite them and then actually touch and feel them. So a lot of the experience that you learn in your own backyard, you can transcend over the phone to an emerging market when you're talking to brokers, but yet you don't want to go over to the area yet. I remember I was so poor. When I first started looking at emerging markets, is I wanted to make sure I had a deal in Montgomery, Alabama before I actually paid for a plane to go out there and do it. Now, in hindsight, looking back, if you have the opportunity to go into a market, prior to and get face-to-face with the broker, the deals will come a lot faster. So market analysis. You need to understand how to analyze a market. You need to how to understand job growth, the foundation of the government there, what the Economic Development Committee is doing, what they're doing to bring jobs in. So that's a system that you need to have in place. Because once you learn that system, you can go from market to market to market. We very quickly went from Montgomery, Alabama, into 18 different markets in 4 years with the emerging market system that we learned how to do in Montgomery. But you learn it, and then it becomes cookie cutter. Like my 3-family properties in Brockton, 3 to 6 units. I bought my first one, took me 9 months to do it. I was so afraid to do it. But then I did the first one. Within 3 months later, we had 3 more. Within 6 months later, we had 9. Within the first year, we had 11. Within the first 3 years, we had almost 40 of them. 3 to 6 unit buildings. Why not buy anything bigger? Because I was afraid. It took me 9 months to do that first deal. I wasn't going to do a 10 unit. Oh my God, a 10 unit? Even though it was only 4 more units than a 6, I had this, this block. But I get up there. So, market analysis systems. Next, underwriting systems. You need to be a good underwriter. That doesn't mean I hate underwriting. I was talking to a couple gentlemen over there this morning, and they said, Dave, is it true what I heard you say one time, that you don't like to underwrite? It's like, yeah, it's true. I said, but I'm a good underwriter. I understand underwriting. So my partner, who loves numbers, and if you're somebody who loves numbers, you're the underwriter, and it's a left brain, right brain thing. So who loves numbers, he analyzes the deals, and then he brings them to me and says, this is a deal. And I say, great, let me see. And almost all the time it is, but there are some times when I look at it and I'll say, oh, but what about this? And what about that? That's what a good underwriter does. So if you don't like numbers, and you don't want to do the underwriting, you got to learn how to do the underwriting so you can hand it off to somebody else. And that's a great thing to be looking for here at Ultimate Partnering, is a partner that's opposite you, and you make a great team. The right brain, the left brain, they go out, they make a great team together. Very rarely do people go solo in this business. If you do, and very rarely are people both left and right brain. So you're always going to have difficulty if you don't find that partner that complements you. That person who had you at hello, right? So deal sourcing systems, where are the deals going to come from? Broker communicate, this is the right brain. Broker communications, they love doing this stuff, picking up the phone, creating commonality, making friends with brokers, going down and seeing them, high five, go fishing, whatever. That's what you do. You have deal sourcing systems. Direct mail, one of our Insider Club members just got a deal off of direct mail. You don't hear a lot about that. You hear a lot about people getting deals from brokers, but one of the easiest ways to get deals is a regular direct mail campaign going out on a regular basis, especially now when people are in trouble. Especially now when your headline says, I can save you X amount on commission, which is music to somebody's ears that doesn't have that much capital left in the deal because it's been lost because of higher interest rates. So look into direct mail, works. Raising Fund System 1. Raising Fund System 1 is being able to go out there and say, hey, this is what I do, and you wait for I always, I'm total introvert. People don't believe it, but I am. If I don't, this is my crowd. You guys are my people. So I'm not introverted when I'm here, but I hate going out and raising money. I hate going into places where I don't know people. I don't like talking to people I don't know. I'm just that way. So what I do is I get different strategies. But one of the strategies is I wait for somebody to say, hey, what do you do? Which they always do. And I say, oh, I raise capital for real estate deals. Boom. That's the down and dirty. It's like, hey, this is, and then if they're interested, they'll start asking you questions. Usually they're objections. But if they're not objections, then they're interest questions. And they take you down the path of where they need to be comfortable investing with you. Somewhere along the line, you seed the fact that you have investors in your deals. You don't come right out and say it. You just kind of seed it. Like, oh, yeah, my investors are happy with the last deal I did. Or, I tend to give my investors higher returns or whatever. You just seed it in there. Then in the back of their mind, they know that you have investing. But that's to get the people on your list. That's raising capital in phase 1. The people that go on your list, half of them are not going to give you money. And if you're familiar with that stat, write it down because it's true. half the people aren't going to give you money. Half of them didn't even intend to give you money. But the problem is you don't know which half. Until you get a deal, you don't know which half. So that's why you always have to, if you're going to do a $1 million deal and it's a $300,000 raise, you have to have $600,000 of commitments inside of your CRM, and then you'll be comfortable getting that. So capital raising systems, number one. Negotiating systems, number one. Negotiating the offer. Oh, I was telling a story and I didn't get to the end. So when I was teaching, the number one reason that people aren't successful is mindset. The number two reason is people are afraid to call brokers. Write that down. And in all the years that we've been doing a mentorship program, our coaches tell us the number two reason that people aren't successful is because they're afraid to call the broker. And I was like, what? So hearing that on year 4, and that's still true today, hearing that on year 4, I started teaching, hey, listen, you're going to be afraid to call brokers. I would just tell people, you're going to be afraid to call brokers. So if you want to do business in, say, San Diego, okay, don't start off calling San Diego brokers. Start calling brokers in Toledo, Ohio. Someplace where you never want to do business. You won't even think of doing business. Someplace where nobody's doing business right now. Like, who wants to own in Toledo, right? But man, those brokers are so happy you called, because their phone hasn't been ringing. So you practice with them, and I promise you it would take you 2 or 3 calls to brokers to realize, it's like, wow, I know what I'm talking about. And then you have the confidence to call the brokers in your area. That works. All right, so negotiating systems. So you negotiate the offer, and that's one thing you can do. You can start working on your negotiating systems with the broker, because every time you get a counteroffer, it's different. Every deal is different. Every counteroffer is different. And you just get more and more. You build your real estate gut. You feel more and more confident. So deal structuring systems. Deal structuring systems are important. So it's like, how am I going to present this deal to the investors? How are we going to make this a win-win situation for the investors and us as well? And I remember Maureen Miles. She's an insider, remember. She came to us when she was, first she came to us way back in 2006 or 7, when she just wanted a different life. And she went to Multifamily Millions, and she started doing smaller deals, 3 to 6 units, like I did in Connecticut. Then she got into her job at AT&T. Her husband works for the highway department. She had 2 kids. She used to take her kids around and go through all the properties. She used to look at the properties with her kids. It got so much that her kids went to so many different properties to check them out and to work on them. Maureen would say, kids, you want to go get some ice cream? And the kids would say, yeah, Mom, do we have to bring a screwdriver? Because that's how they would check to see if the beams were solid at the house. And she'd be like, yeah, a screwdriver in our boots. And she'd be like, you should probably bring them just in case, right? They needed them. So anyway, she goes into her, in 2013, she came in full bore. She joins mentorship. She goes to her first emerging market. Within that first year, she has 3 deals under contract, closes them. Her and her partner, somebody that she met here at Ultimate Partnering back then, they split $600,000 in acquisition fees and $8 million in equity on that first year. Is that good? Yeah. And yeah, let's give her a hand. Maureen has not missed an Ultimate Partnering until this one. And the reason is that she's at Tony Robbins' house in Fiji right now. She's a Tony Robbins lion. She's made so much. That was her first 3 deals. They went on to do 23 deals. She made so much money in the last run that she's just traveling the world. I love Tony Robbins. I go to his events. She goes to his events. I can't travel. When you're a lion, Tony Robbins lion, you have a business that does $20 million or more, and they travel everywhere. I've got kids. I can't travel everywhere. So she said, Dave, I love you. I love Ultimate Partnering, but I get to see Tony's house in Fiji. So that's where she is. But she said, during one of the times that we had a talk up here during a panel, she says, you know what? On that third deal that I did, we made $1 million each on that deal. But if I structured that deal just a little bit differently, looking back from what I know now, we would have made $1 million more. So that's why you need to understand deal structuring. So now you get a property under contract. It's like, yes, we get a property under contract. All right, then you go to the next phase, the second cog. The second cog is from under contract to closing, because that deal could fall out